Greetings, everybody. We're delighted that you took the time to attend our performance tonight. Our first number was by Philip Glass, a prominent and popular composer of minimalist music. Minimalism is an important movement in art in general, and specifically in music in the 20th and 21st century. It takes its cues from non-Western music, specifically that of Asia, which often uses repetitive music to induce a trance for meditation, and from the improvisatory musics of folk music and American pop and jazz. A composer who was also influenced by non-Western music, but at the very start of the 20th century, was the Australian-American composer Percy Grainger. Grainger was involved in an important tour of Australia and surrounding islands in 1903 to 1904 and became enchanted by the polyphonic choral improvisatory style of the Maori natives of Rarotonga. That exposure informed his unique approach to improvisation and understanding of British folk song. Let's watch a brief video on the life and music of Percy Grainger, one of the 20th century's most intriguing musical figures. Have I done something wrong up here? Hi. Just tell me. I've screwed it up, so just tell me. Okay, somebody's coming. With a tire jack and a spare tire. I'm sure we'll be in great shape here real quickly. Okay. Well, if you hang in there for a few minutes, we'll have this up and running, I'm sure. In 2019, I was doing some research. I have done about 40 years worth of research in the music and life of Percy Grainger, and I was doing some research on Percy Grainger, and like a lot of people, I was doing my research on YouTube. And so I found a couple of interesting videos to watch on Grainger. And you know how YouTube has a side panel that comes up that says, hey, if you like that one, you'll really like this one. Well, one of them was a video called Art of Agony. And so, wow, what's that? So I clicked on it, and it came up, and the most amazing video I had seen in a while came up. And knowing Percy Grainger as I do, there are a couple of things about him that he was a collector of folk song and able to transcribe the most intricate pitch and rhythmic singing of the folk singers that he was collecting his songs from. What do you think?
We nearly there. Let me just...
But also he was very interested in the percussion instruments, particularly what he called the tuneful percussion instruments. So the instruments that you see up here, the xylophone and the bells, had always been used. Could somebody play a few notes on the xylophone just so everybody knows what we're talking about? Somebody play a few notes on the xylophone? Do we have anybody trained back there? Play a C scale on the xylophone. Okay, and now C scale on the bells. Yeah, that was good. Come on. C scale on bells. These are the orchestra bells. This week, folks. Okay, yeah, we're good now. Look at us. Well, we got started on something now. We've got to finish it up. So those are the upper instruments, and those are the louder instruments, and so those are the only ones that were used in orchestras. But there are other instruments that extend the range. One is the vibraphone. Can I hear a C scale on the vibraphone without having to pay money for it? So you can see that extends the range on down. And now, guess what's coming next? The marimba. Can I hear a C scale on the marimba? Preferably in the deep end. Excellent. Everybody gets an A. All right, so that extends the range on down. So now you have the ability to play over the full range of the orchestra. So Grainger was the first one to put this to work in the symphony orchestra. And now we're back to watching that short film on his life and music. Assuming I can get my cursor back. There's always a problem with the cursor. Can you all hear that? Is that loud enough to hear?
I don't know that my music is consistently warm and natural.
Need some more volume.
Music is the art of agony. Music is after all derived from screaming.
We're making this picture and we're playing his music because he wrote genuine masterpieces.
Shepherd's Hay is just a variant of the keel road.
He was a firecracker among musicians. Something to do with his temperament made him explode into new ideas, and something in himself made it self-destruct.
Thank you.
Percy Grainger is a phenomenon of 20th century music, but one teeming with contradictions and peculiarities.
Well, if you've ever wondered what Morris dancers are, you just saw some. If you've ever wondered what a handkerchief dance is, you just saw some. And basically every small town in central and southern England will have a Morris dancer team with 6 to 8 dancers who participate in their festivals. And that's just part of their folk tradition in that central part of England, which, as you may know, those folks moved to South Carolina and North Carolina in the 1600s, and then they moved to Arkansas about 200 years later. So that's where the forebears of native-born Arkansans, anyway, would have come from. Okay, now I've lost the, I don't have the presentation on my screen anymore. Okay, how do we get back? Okay, here we go. That's no, we don't want that again. How do I get back one? There it is. Oh no! There we go. No, that's wrong. There we go. So, Percy Grainger was one of the top pianists of the first half of the 20th century, and one of the top earners, too, of that part of the century. The most important English folk song collector of his time, and one of the greatest setters of folk song of any time. In other words, taking the folk song and turning it into something that orchestras or chamber music players could play. He was a musical innovator on par with Charles Ives, Igor Stravinsky, or John Cage. He was a brilliant and innovative orchestrator and an important thinker in the area of music education. Well, that's a lot of interest, almost too much for any one person. You start to look at that and think, well, this person's just a dabbler, just a dilettante. But it was amazing how deep he was able to get into all these subjects and become an expert on all of them. So how do we figure out where all these disparate interests are about? Is there any connection to them? And for Grainger, it was a desire for freedom for both the creative artist, which would be a composer, and the executive artist, which would be the performer, and a musical world devoid of striation, so no upper class, lower class. He called it democratic polyphony, where all the parts were important. Everybody had important parts. And a promotion of the underserved and under-respected, music for the saxophone, music for percussion, music for tuba, an eagerness to challenge conventional wisdom. One of his obituaries contained the tongue-in-cheek observation that he was a musical heretic and a baiter of stuffed shirts. I think I would have liked this guy. All right, we will now play Shepherd's Hay for you. So Percy Grainger is recognized by ethnomusicologists as among the earliest to establish the standards for folk song collecting, and his musical settings of folk songs, both his own and those of others, are recognized as among the finest. He and Bela Bartok in Hungary were among those recording early and using a phonograph, an Edison wax cylinder recorder, to capture the songs. Benjamin Britten, the great English composer, said, "In the matter of folk song, Percy Grainger is my master." Let's listen to an interview with John Amos in which Grainger recounts his folk song collecting experiences.
When did you start collecting first time? I mean, how did you come up with that?
Miss Broadwood, Miss Lucy Broadwood was the secretary of the Folk Song Society, and she had a program in 1904 which I heard. And although our harmonizations were very simple, I thought they were very touching, and I said to her, I should like to collect. So they were organising a festival at Brigg, Lincolnshire. And I went up there. Miss Broadwood was there collecting, and I collected. And the next year, bought a phonograph and went there with the phonograph. You went into a village like Brigg, and you met the schoolmaster and the squire and the doctor and so on, the postmaster. And he'd say, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I have to collect some folk songs." "Oh, you won't get any here. This is the most unmusical village." And by the evening, you might have 50, 70 songs.
Well, not just anybody would get 50 or 70 songs. You need to be able to engage with people. One of Grainger's skills was engaging with people in a way that they would sing for him and bring out their songs. So that's a special part of folk song collecting as well.
For instance, Lisbon was sung by an old man in the workhouse, and as he sang, he commenced to cry. And the matron of the workhouse said to me, "I don't think we should do any more of this now. He has sung these things for years and years, and it makes him think of his youth, and it works him up, it might kill him." So there was nothing to be said to that, of course. So I just left it uncollected, or rather badly collected. Years later, I came back with a phonograph. And I said, "Well, here I am now with a phonograph to take down the singing, Mr. T." "Oh, no, I can't. After a week, my head's so bad, I really can't." So I said, "Well, never mind, you don't need to sing, Mr. D. But I'd like you to listen to some of the other people here and heard that very fast." So he listened, about one verse and a half, and said, "I'll sing for you, young man." That's how they work.
So he just needed a little competition.
And did he kill him?
No, I thought that really it was better to kill him and get the tune than to have him die pre-recorded. What use was that?
You're a real collector.
With a real sense of humor as well. Percy Grainger was one of the great harmonists of the 20th century and was the first to discover and harmonize what he called Irish Tune from County Derry in 1902. It had no words at that time. With words added after 1902, it became the immortal Danny Boy. Grainger was fond of incorporating passages where melodic lines or chordal sequences are sent off in different directions without apparent regard to each other. Remember that element of freedom, right? The resulting sounds often produce sudden discordant clashes which give the impression of having happened almost by accident, the more so when they occur in predominantly consonant stretches. Grainger himself wrote, "My efforts, even though in those young days, was to wrench the listener's heart with my chords. It is a subtle matter and is not achieved by mere discordance. Music is not made agonizing by sharp discord any more than literature is made agonizing by crude events. It is the contrast between the sweet and the harsh that is heart-rending." So this is Irish Tune from County Derry, 1902 by Percy Grainger. particularly music that was not tethered to the grid of rhythm or pitch. The idea that there are 12 pitches in an octave, well, there are many more than that. They're an infinite number. And the idea that music has to be in lockstep and have to have these jagged subdivisions of rhythm. He rejected that and envisioned music that could be freer of that.
Music is an art not yet grown up. Its condition is comparable to that stage of Egyptian bas-relief when the head and legs were shown in profile while the torso appeared front face. And with free music, we enter the phase of technical maturity such as that enjoyed by the Greek sculptures, when all aspects and attitudes of the human body could be shown in arrested movement.
Elgar said that anything he saw turned to music in his mind. And I think something of that kind might have been true of Percy. He wanted to be able to tally, that's the word I want. Tally was a very favorite word of Percy's. He wanted to be able to tally what nature did in his music. Percy said that the idea of free music began when he was a youngster of 11 or 12 in a boat on the Albert Lagoon in Australia, watching the waves lapping against the sides of the boat. Not listening, watching the pattern of the waves. And he didn't see why music shouldn't be able to do the same sort of unlimited, stepless motion. He saw this as virgin territory, as something that nobody had gotten into and that had to be explored. The difficulty was, of course, that in order to explore it, he needed a machine. So we started in the crudest way, in the most primitive way, to do experiments with gliding sounds.
This is part of the experiments made by Burnett Cross and Percy Grainger to provide or adapt instruments to play Grainger's free music by a Leon pianola, which plays from a paper graph cut by the experimenters.
First gliding chords on Reedbox Tone Tool, September the 30th, 1951. September 1st, 1952, free operator.
When we talked, he made me think that I was like a man down in a valley looking around at the landscape. Percy was a man up on a mountaintop. He saw so much farther.
Well, this brings us to our last number on the first half of our program, Robert Davidson's Art of Agony from his larger work, Stalin's Piano. Robert is head of composition at Queensland University in Brisbane, Australia. His work, Stalin's Piano, is a series of vignettes combining music with speech. In the same way that Percy Grainger painstakingly transcribed folk singers' rhythm and melody, Davidson has done that with a radio interview between Wayne Howe and Percy Grainger made in 1952. In the interview, Grainger put forward the case that music is actually the art of agony. When I first heard the piece in 2019, I was attracted to it, and knowing of Percy Grainger's love for what he called the tuneful percussions, I thought the piano accompaniment would make a splendid mallet ensemble arrangement. In the Art of Agony, the rhythms and pitches work together to form several strong motives. Among them, music is after all derived from screaming, and it's not derived from laughing. And when you put those together, music is after all derived from screaming. It's not derived from laughing. Music is after all derived from screaming. It's not derived from laughing. Music is after all derived from screaming. It's not derived from laughing. After a few repetitions, these motives combine to form a 6/8 rhythm, very suggestive of Latin American music. Considering Grainger's thoughts on free music, since that's where the music wanted to go when left freely to its own nature, that's where Dr. Davidson took it. We've enjoyed meeting the technical challenges of this piece, which involve working with some very complex rhythms and hooking up all the players to headsets with click tracks so that we can synchronize with the film. Watch the words on the screen, listen to Robert Davidson's music using Percy Grainger's voice as his inspiration, and see if you think we have captured Percy Grainger's spirit of playfulness and desire for artistic freedom. This is a great quote of Grainger's that I really come back to. We know that music has been called the universal language. Grainger disagreed. He said, I firmly believe that music will someday become a universal language, but it will not become so as long as our musical vision is limited to the output of 4 European countries between 1700 and 1900. The first step in the right direction is to view the music of all peoples and periods without prejudice of any kind, and to strive to put the world's known and available best music into circulation. Only then shall we be justified in calling music a universal language. And as you can see, he said that 90 years ago. So this is The Art of Agony, Percy Grainger, His Voice is Music by Robert Davidson.
And his symphony orchestra gave us Percy Grainger's Early One Morning, and now back to Percy Grainger himself, our guest today on Favorites of the Famous. Mr. Grainger, you've been called the one cheerful, sunny composer living. So what would you rate the people want?
Comes from people not knowing most of my compositions, but I think I know my roots.
You both are misinterpreting it, like you said before.
One piece out of 20, and that one piece happens to be out of 99. You ignore the other 19, most of it.
Well, you don't actually feel vocals, you...
Yes, I do. I enjoy it very much.
You enjoy feeling sad? Why do you think it's funny? I mean, if you enjoy being sad, you should be on it.
It isn't a question of whether I enjoy it too much or not. But I think music is the art of agony. Music is the art of agony. Music is the art of agony. Music is after all derived from screaming. It's not derived from laughing.
Right, screaming.
Well, when you think most music originated in trying to placate hostile vehicles, like the Chinese banging a drum in the storm, and screaming and supplication are not so very far removed, and music is, of course, the all derives from screaming. I think the best thing for a composer is to be badly treated in every way.
Well, that was Rainbow Ripples, the only rag that George Gershwin ever wrote, 1916, so very early in his career. And this was the University of Arkansas, either adult or alumni association, depending on percussion ensemble, depending on whether Matt Burska is here or not. He isn't. I was being Matt tonight, so tonight it's the alumni percussion ensemble. But these are students who've kept up their playing skills and were interested in playing, and they came and nagged me into letting them organize and kind of recoup their performance skills, and we're real proud of the work that they do. Next is the MUED 1371 class percussion class playing trap door. Why can I not remember that name? And these folks are not, for the most part, not percussionists. I think there's some ringers in there. Well, they're not ringers, they're people taking the class who are percussionists, but for the most part, these are brass players or woodwind players or singers or string players who are learning how to go out into the world and be dangerous with percussion instruments. So they've been working all semester, and for the last several years, we've had them perform as a part of our percussion ensemble concert. The earliest percussion curriculum, in other words, the earliest opportunity to major with percussion as your instrument, didn't happen until 1950, where it started at the University of Illinois with a gentleman named Paul Price at the head of the program. When Paul Price moved to the Manhattan School of Music, he came into contact with an ambitious and very talented drum set player named Michael Colgrass. And Michael Colgrass went on to, just was interested in jazz, that's all he wanted to do. But then he became intrigued with the things that Paul Price was doing with their percussion ensemble. And so he started writing percussion ensembles, and he wrote especially early on, he wrote a bunch of drum ensembles. In other words, ensembles that don't use the keyboard instruments, that use just the struck percussion, snare drum and toms and things of that nature. And in many cases, end up sounding a little bit like a deconstructed drum set. So this percussion music is just such a piece. It's a quartet that he wrote, I believe, in 1953, and it's in 4 movements. We're going to play 3 of them tonight, and I think you'll hear sounds somewhat like a deconstructed drum set. We don't have many percussion composers who went on to win Pulitzer Prizes, but Michael Colgrass is one with his wind ensemble piece, Deja Vu, which has terrific percussion writing in it, as you might imagine, but it's just a beautifully written piece, all in all. I think one of my first experiences with percussion ensemble was in 1969 at the University of Alabama when I played Michael Colgrass's Three Brothers, which is for kind of modeled after the, I believe it was the Dorsey band that had 4 brothers, which is the saxophone section. But the 3 brothers in this piece were the snare drum, the bongos, and the timpanist. And so they had a lively Afro-Cuban background and then did solos against that. Still one of my favorite pieces. We should do it around here sometime soon. So this is Michael Colgrass's percussion music when they get ready. I should recognize some people. I haven't introduced myself. My name is Chow Ragsdale. I'm the Director of Percussion Studies. My colleague, Fernando Valencia. Where are you, Fernando? I can't see you. It's too dark. Would you stand and let us acknowledge you? Yeah. There you go. Fernando's a University of Arkansas alum. He got his master's degree here after earning a bachelor's degree at the State Conservatory in Columbia, and then went on to do a artist diploma at Temple University with Alan Abel, the great percussionist of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and has come back here and just torn it up with what we're doing with Afro-Cuban percussion. Fernando, though, is also an outstanding timpanist, an outstanding orchestral percussion, an outstanding set drummer, plays jazz piano really well, outstanding I kind of hate him, if you want to know the truth. He knows I don't mean that at all, but I'm so happy to have him as a colleague. And then Chris Shearer. Chris, are you probably busy doing something? Chris has his master's degree and artist diploma from here and his bachelor's degree from Oklahoma State University. And we just couldn't let him go. He's been here now 10 years in one capacity or another. When he thought he would graduate, we realized that logistically we just couldn't do without him, to have a complete percussion set up here at the FPAC and then another one at the band building. So he has done that, and then we can't work him too hard because, you know, the rule of 168, that's 24 times 7. There's just so many hours in the week and you can't invent more, but he's teaching private lessons for us now. He helps with percussion ensemble coaching, and is just a great colleague with us. So, Nick, are we ready? I will shut up then, and we'll get underway with Michael Colgrass's percussion music. When he gets up here, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Yoshio Yamashita, the composer of the next piece. Yoshio's a second-year conducting master's student, having done a bachelor's degree here in composition and having graduated with honors. And he's a brilliant young composer who's done some great things, and he'll fill you in on this piece. You don't mind if I spring that on you, do you?
Well, you did, so.
Okay.
So the piece we'll be playing tonight is, or rather the music we'll be playing tonight is an excerpt from a larger work. This is Angelis Lucis for percussion quartet. It's a 4-movement work. We'll be playing the first 2 movements in reverse order. So the second movement first, followed by the first movement. When I compose music, there's a certain, perhaps, expectation that a lot of the composition process takes place far removed from the outside world. So there's almost a little bit of a preconception that all of composition has to happen away from other people. You know, you lock yourself in a room with a piano and some staff paper, and you don't come out until the piece is finished or something. But I think that's perhaps an over-dramatization of what actually happens. Of course, I find myself retreating to somewhere private to actually go into the act of writing the piece and focusing myself and actually putting ideas on paper. But in respect to finding ideas or discovering melodies or harmonies or whatever is in a composition, it's far more common that I find those by just observing the world around me rather than locking myself in a room with a piano and hoping at the end of the day I'll walk out with a piece of music, because I think the chances of that are probably pretty low. All of that to say that these movements, which the titles of which are printed in your programs, are not necessarily programmatic pieces. These are simply names that came to me as I was writing the pieces that don't have any specific imagery or any specific plan of events or any certain drama behind it. These are pieces that are truly free of a program or an image in that sense. And so they're pieces that you really can take at face value. They are the music, and you can interpret them as the listener as you wish, without me, the composer, saying that this piece is about this certain thing. So without further ado, this is the first 2 movements of percussion quartet.
Our last number is a favorite of percussion ensembles and composed by a person who is a favorite among us. Ivan Trevino teaches at 3 different colleges in the vicinity of Austin, Texas, and is a very talented composer. He's been up here to be on our Day of Percussion, is the author of a really interesting blog post that went viral called My Pretend Music School, where he deconstructed his undergraduate, particularly degree program, and made suggestions about how curricula could be made more relevant to what students are going to actually encounter when they get out in the world, whether it's as a performer or as a music educator. It's a very interesting read, and we tried to adapt, especially during COVID, we were able to adapt a lot of the things that he was talking about in there. Focus on private teaching, focus on technology, being able to record yourself and link that with a video recording that you might make on your phone. And also all the notation softwares that are out there, and making sure that we're on top of all that. So very interesting. Ivan's a terrific fellow and has written a lot of very good music that we all enjoy. I want to thank the staff here at the Faulkner Performing Arts Center for all their help. All of the glitches that were in the first half were all on me, not on them. They did a great job. I want to especially thank Isaac and Daniel, who came up, who did so much work to support us in that first half. A lot of fun. We'll have to do something like that again. That was virgin territory for us. And I was very, very pleased. I think it made an interesting addendum and allowed us to do some things that really enhanced the music on the first half. I think they're just about ready, so we'll get underway with Ivan Trevino's Catching Shadows. And thank you all for coming out. Everybody in Percussion Ensemble or Percussion Studio, you know, we hang around until all this stuff is back home, so got about another hour after this. We enjoyed it, though. Thank you for coming out.